Hi, everyone, and welcome to Living Overseas on a Dime. Today, we're going to talk about our budget for Mexico City for May 2022. Actually, it's Mexico City and San Miguel. Okay, so as per our normal budget videos, we'll be talking about different categories and our spending in each of those categories for the month. So, the categories we will be talking about are restaurants, groceries, miscellaneous, medical, activities, transport, and cell phones. And then we'll go into the subtotal for those and then go into kind of a final total for rent and some of our kind of ongoing prices. So let's get started. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about where we were. We spent about almost 3 weeks in Mexico City and then a week in San Miguel de Allende. So this is our budget for that time there. We're going to start out with restaurants. Now, this was a bit of a problem one for us this time. I'm not going to pretend, and it may be where the source of our problems comes from in this time period. For our time for restaurants in Mexico City and San Miguel de Allende, we spent 400 Canadian dollars or approximately 315 US dollars for that time. We loved the food in these places, and it was a problem, especially Mexico City. You know, there's so much variety. There's very cheap local food that you can get pretty much everywhere on the street in Mexico City, but that was not the problem. The problem was the fantastic food you could get in the restaurants. And like some of it is not what you think. For example, there was a gourmet burger scene in Mexico City that kind of blew our minds. They had all sorts of amazing beef-based burgers, chicken-based burgers, veg burgers, you name it, that we just had to try. And, they also had some really great international cuisine. In our one video we showed, we went out for some Korean food. In a video, something we didn't record, we went out for Japanese food. So it just shows you like Mexico City has pretty much any food you can imagine. Problem is it comes with the associated price tag. And if you look back at some of our previous months, Sayulita, Puerto Escondido, we only spent like $250 Canadian on those months. This month we spent 400 Canadian, almost 315 US dollars. So you know what? We'll man up here. We definitely we spent some extra money here, but at the same time, we think it was worth it. It was nice to kind of have some different foods after we had been traveling for a while, and it was absolutely worth it. The next category, that of groceries. Now, this category is kind of an interesting one because we had to go set up in Mexico City, and we had to set up 3 places: Mexico City, then we went to San Miguel, and then we actually went back to Mexico City again. So what happens is we found every time we arrive in a new place, we actually buy a fair amount of groceries almost as a setup price. And that includes weird little things like condiments, anything that location might be missing. And it tends to be a bit of a higher grocery bill than it would be if you stay longer. So that kind of showed us that if you're traveling relatively quickly, like for us, it was 3 locations in 1 month's time, the grocery bill goes up accordingly. So our grocery bill for that month was $816 Canadian or 645 US dollars. Now, that being said, that isn't that much higher than the around 700 Canadian that we'd have most months, but it is higher just from that extra setup cost, I think. There were some other things that we got that maybe were a little bit different, but not really. So you know what? It's just something to plan if you are planning on moving around a fair bit more. I don't think it's as big a deal if you're staying in one place, as we've learned. Our next category is miscellaneous. Now, this included, I think Jenny had to buy a pair of sandals for that month, just because hers were getting older. And these things do pop up. Like, normally it's more like toiletries, shampoo, toilet paper, things like that. But in this case, Jenny did have to buy a new pair of sandals. So those things happen. And in the very near future, I'm likely going to have to buy some running shoes. So you know what? You put mileage on those things walking around. So for that month, our miscellaneous bill was 231 Canadian dollars or 182 US dollars. So you know what? It's life, right? Different things come up. And in this case, there was some footwear. So that's the way it works. Sometimes it's a little bit more expensive. Sometimes it's a lot less. Our next area is that of medical. And you know what? This month we were pretty healthy, and that's good. We did buy a couple little things, nothing major. So our bill was 66 Canadian dollars or 52 US dollars. The next category, and this is one where we spent a fair bit more than the other places, and rightfully so, is activities. Now, if you go and check out some of our other videos, which maybe I'll put up here or up here, uh, we went to a lot of places in Mexico City. We went to Chapultepec Park, to the Anthropological Museum, and we just checked out a lot of places. Now, none of them were all that expensive, but you know what? You have to pay an entrance fee, and I think most of the time it was like 85 per adult, and I think Cole was free for most of them, some not. But those things do add up, and they're worth it. You know what? You're not living in a place, checking a place out for, you're only there for a month or 3 weeks or whatever. So you definitely want to try and go to some of these different places that you would miss out on otherwise. So our price for activities for that month was 100 Canadian dollars or 80 US dollars. But this isn't one that I think would be any different. It might be different if you're there longer term, but in our case, it was 100% worth that money. Now, here's the kicker, the one where we really just kind of blew a lot of money. And there's not much you can do about it when you're moving around from place to place, and you got to get to the airport, you got to get from the airport, you got to take the bus, you got to get back to the airport. It ends up adding up, and that's transportation. So our transportation bill for that month was 650 Canadian dollars or 513 US dollars. Now, this also included 3 return tickets to San Miguel de Allende, which weren't super expensive, but they did add up. The to and from the airport in Mexico City was a bit, it just adds up. And that's one of the things that I think gives strength to the retire in one spot versus the virtual, the nomad sort of way of thinking. Because when you stay in one place, maybe that's more of an expat retirement lifestyle. You're not spending all that money moving around all the time. You will, because you go places still. But in this case, with almost, with 650 Canadian dollars, over 500 US dollars, that's a lot of money spent on transport for 1 month. And that doesn't include any plane tickets. So, if we didn't have that, maybe this would be a little bit lower. But it still was worth it because we got to see some places that we wouldn't otherwise have seen, like San Miguel de Allende, which was really beautiful. Cell phones. Now, with our cell phones for this month, we actually paid up our cell phones at the end of our time in Puerto Escondido. So we didn't actually spend anything this month on cell phones. So our cell phones for that month was $0 US, 0 Canadian, 0 pesos. So that was good. That wasn't any sort of expense. Now, our subtotal for the month of May 2022 was 2,263 Canadian dollars, 1,788 US dollars. You may say, hey, that's not bad. You're under 2,000 US. Yeah, this is before rent. Before rent and before any of our set prices, our set things that we have to deal with every month, which we'll go into right now. But I'm going to tell you right away, we're in a fair bit of trouble this month. So then we have our set costs. Now, in this case for rent, it's not exactly set because we went to 3 different places, one of which was a hotel. It was a very nice hotel that had a kitchenette and everything, but it was still a hotel and cost accordingly. So our cost for rent for that month was 1,250 Canadian dollars or 1,000 US dollars, which is a fair bit more than we paid at a lot of other places, which was more around $800 Canadian, which is like 650 US. So this is just the cost of moving around a fair bit. There are places in Mexico City for rent that you could get for less than 1,000 Canadian dollars a month. But it does kind of show you that Mexico City can be a bit more of an expensive place for renting. San Miguel, not so much. San Miguel, you can find cheaper places. But even then, these are places that you do very much get what you pay for. And if you're going for a cheaper place, it might be in kind of a rough neighborhood, especially in Mexico City. So that's something to be aware of. And you know what? You do want to be safety conscious and stay in the neighborhoods that are nicer. Insurance, our insurance stayed the same. Our insurance was 230 Canadian dollars or 180 US dollars. That's the same every month. That's through Safety Wing, our medical and travel insurance that we pay. And so far, it's been pretty good. Our final set cost is our storage unit. Our storage unit is 63 US dollars, or sorry, 63 Canadian dollars or 44 US dollars a month. That once again, like I said in the last video, we're starting to question, but it is what it is, and that's going to stay there until we're done traveling. Okay, our grand total for the month of May for Mexico City, San Miguel de Allende, kind of in one package, was 3,800 Canadian dollars or 3,020 US dollars for 1 month. Now, this is a straight out fail when it comes to our budget of 2,000 US dollars for a month. But you know what? I think it was worth it because we got to see so many great things and travel around. And you know what? You can't have every month just have your budget be a stranglehold. That's not what this is about. Sometimes you do need to go out and see things you want to see if you can and if you can afford it. If you can't and you're on a set budget and you're staying in one place, that's completely different. But in our case, that's not the case. And we wanted to see some things and check some things out and see if different places suited us. And you know what? Even though, 3,800 Canadian, that's a big ways away, or 3,020, that's 1,000 US dollars over budget. But sometimes you just have to do that. You have to say, okay, I know I'm spending this. I think this is worth that. And in retrospect, I think it's some of the best days. We love Mexico City. We absolutely love it. And in the future, we'll have a video talking about the potential of retiring there. But we do not regret 1 second or $1 that we spent on Mexico City, and we would do it again. So I hope this video today was of help to you and looking at a budget for Mexico City or San Miguel de Allende. And stay safe. Happy travels.